What's up, guys? Welcome to a new day. I'm Stephanie Ryder, and this is the 365 Shares podcast. It's February 6th, 2024, and today's topic is Trait 2. The Big Red Book says we became approval seekers and lost our identity in the process. People-pleasing and approval-seeking is such a big part of our culture. It's something a lot of us struggle with. We are supposed to be nice and polite. We're not supposed to tell people anything uncomfortable. We're not supposed to give anyone bad feelings. We're supposed to be a good sport. We're supposed to go with the flow. We're supposed to say yes to everything. And maybe a lot of this is societal, but if you are an adult child of an alcoholic or other type of dysfunction, you also may have learned people-pleasing as a way to survive. A lot of us internalized the problems that our parents had and we blamed ourselves. So we told ourselves things like, if I just am perfect today, then mom or dad won't get drunk. Or if I do all my chores the right way, nobody will hit me. Or if I make dad proud, he'll come and pick me up this weekend for his parental visit, even though he doesn't usually do it. But if I just become the star of the baseball team, then he'll have to come and love me and be proud of me. It's really heartbreaking to think of all the reasons that we become people pleasers. And it's also heartbreaking to think that it has prevented us from becoming our true selves or even to know what we really want. I'm Steph, and this is my share. The affirmation for today from the Strengthening My Recovery book is, on this day, I clearly see the difference between seeking false approval and doing a good deed because it's the right thing to do. I am grateful for that realization as I live my recovery. I'm jumping right into the share today because I could talk for 7 days in a row about people-pleasing and approval-seeking. I'm going to talk about some ways that I've done it and that I am working on not doing it as much. And I'm going to talk about some ways that it has affected me and hurt me from other people as well. In my family, I've recently realized that the big lie is that you're not ever allowed to call a spade a spade. You can't tell someone if they're being a jerk. You definitely can't tell someone if they're being crazy. You have to just assimilate. If people are doing things that are hurting your feelings, it's because you're too sensitive. If someone did something mean to you, they were just having a bad day, and you have to be understanding of that. If someone is doing things to hurt themselves or other people, you have to ignore it. If people are just declining and not taking care of themselves and having issues, you have to just say they're doing their best and try to put it out of your mind and not think about it. You're not allowed to say, you're being crazy today, or that is a totally inappropriate way to deal with that. Or I've had a lot of therapy and it's really helped me, and I know that it would help you too. Maybe you should try it. You're not supposed to say that. And that really carried into my relationships outside of my family as well, because I just thought I was supposed to go through the world pretending that everything was fine and everything was cool and people weren't being nuts or doing things to me that were hurtful. And I've had so many friendship relationships, especially with women, where we're just supposed to be so nice and polite to each other and friendly. People tell me like some crazy story about, some person they want to date, and they're pie in the sky dreams of how it's going to work out. And I pretend not to notice all the little red flags that they're telling me about and just tell them like, yeah, that's great. He's probably going to propose soon. And ultimately friendships like that have ended up unraveling for me because it gets to the point where I just can't go along with this bizarre alternate universe anymore. It gets to the point where I'm just like, you know what? Like, all of this is nonsense. And then either they stop wanting to be friends or I stop wanting to be friends and the friendship just dissolves. So I'm trying to pepper in a little bit more honesty in like a healthy, still kind way. I've also dealt with people pleasers in my romantic relationships. My ex-husband was a people pleaser. And there's a line in the Big Red Book that I really love that says, at the core, people pleasing is dishonest and creates the wrong foundation for a meaningful relationship that most adult children really want deep down inside. And the first time I read this, it was such a revelation to me because in our culture, people-pleasing is nice, it's polite, it's the right thing to do for most situations, for most people. And to read in the Big Red Book that people-pleasing is dishonest, that statement blew my mind because it's the first time that I had ever heard anyone say that it wasn't the right thing to do. That not only was it not the right thing to do, that it was the wrong thing to do. And it was tantamount to lying because it is lying. If you're telling someone yes when you really mean no, you are lying. And obviously there's little exceptions like, do I look fat in this? The answer is usually no. But When I was with my ex-husband, I would ask him all the time, "Are you happy with me? Is there anything I could do differently?" I really wanted to make the relationship work. And he always, always, always said, "No, you're perfect. No, I love you. You're my angel." But really, he was unhappy with the relationship and he was complaining about me to his friends. He was complaining about me to his therapist. So by the time he was ready to get divorced, it was over. He was ready. And I saw something on Instagram the other day on Nicola Perez's page, which is at the.holistic.psychologist. It's an amazing account. If you don't follow it, definitely follow it. And there was a post. She does a lot of posts with her partners where they'll role play different situations. And in this situation, they were role playing a relationship where one person was asking for things to change and it wasn't being met receptively. And so after doing work and work, they have finally decided to leave the relationship. By the time they told their partner that they wanted out of the relationship, they'd already gone through this process of grieving the relationship. So they weren't even that sad by the time it was over. And I think that's what my ex-husband did with me. By the time he told me he wanted a divorce, he was like so over the relationship. He was like 6 months over the relationship. And I did not know that he was 6 months over the relationship. I was still in the relationship. I was working on the relationship. I thought it was a forever marriage. So I was completely blindsided. I was totally devastated. But he just got to go his merry way and he got remarried really quickly because he had had time to like pre-grieve the end of our marriage. So that is an example of where people pleasing has really hurt me. And I had a relationship post marriage with someone who pretty quickly was giving out super people pleasing vibes. The stories they were sort of telling me about past partners of like, oh yeah, they did this and this and this. And basically that they put up with it, but like grumbled about it and didn't say anything. And I was like, this is a huge red flag. So I was very careful with that person to not ask them for anything and to not like make too many demands. But ultimately, there were still things that he was upset about that would come out in little passive aggressive ways because no matter how accommodating I was, he was just never going to be able to come to the table in an honest way because the people pleasing was so deep. And I think if you get to the extreme end of people pleasing, that's where you see people who become pathological liars, where they're not able to be honest with themselves. And they're certainly not able to be honest with the people who love them because they're so terrified of abandonment. And they believe at their core that everything they want and everything they think and everything they feel is wrong. So they have to change it before they present it to the world. And it becomes so natural for them to just lie. And they don't even think of it as lying. They just say the opposite of what they're feeling all the time. And they obfuscate their intentions as much as possible. And they try to make sure that whatever their plan is, they're the only ones who know all the details. Because if anyone else knew all the details and they didn't like it, they could try to change it. And then that might jeopardize their ability to get exactly what they wanted in the way that they wanted it from the people they wanted it from. So that's my little soapbox on people pleasing. I'm not going to belabor the point. I struggle with it. I've dealt with other people struggling with it. It's my goal to work on it and be honest in a kind way. It's a work in progress. It probably always will be a work in progress. I definitely still am not good at it, but it's something that I'm being mindful of. And if you have a copy of the Big Red Book, I highly suggest going to the back to the index where it says people pleasing and read all the pages that it's listed. It's just such a good exercise. It's what we do in our book studies and our ACA meetings, and it might really blow your mind to something that you didn't even realize was a problem in your life.